Вітаю. Дуже дякую, доброго дня.
Thank you so much. Good day, dear presentees. Good day, dear journalists.
Дякую за цю
Thank you for such an opportunity
спілкуватися. Бажаю
to communicate with you. I wish you all health.
той час, щоб вітати
This
всіх
is not the time to congratulate you with all of the holidays, but still,
і
it's Easter,
агресія Російської
and
Федерації.
even the aggression of Russian Federation won't be able to cancel Easter. So I wish all of the families and all of you and all of our people, I wish peace and victory, and it will definitely take place. This is the meeting in such a format today. There were lots of requests. My media service said that there were hundreds and even thousands of requests to have interview. So I don't have time to communicate with each of you. Unfortunately, I'm short of time so far. But again, after the victory, we'll be communicating with all of you longer. But now, the time is very expensive for our state. So now we are ready to hold this press conference. You ask, we answer.
Та й поїхали.
Let's begin. Yes, let's begin. Dear colleagues, please raise your signs. Luke, Guardian, please.
Зачекайте, прошу, на мікрофон.
Please wait for the microphone.
Дякую, пане президенте.
Thank you, Mr. President. Recently, we have seen rather weird photos from Moscow of the Russian President Putin, who was holding for the table rather strongly. Could you explain why he invaded Ukraine? Maybe he's sick, maybe he's crazy. Any other idea?
Складно оцінити
Well, it's hard to assess every step of President of Russian Federation. It's hard for me to assess why he is holding for the table or the chair during all of those years, honestly. I don't think that it is connected with why he and his troops came to our land
повзучою
and crawling in a crawling manner as a cobra of occupation. They every day go, and even every year, because we know that the war is ongoing for 8 years.
На жаль, не хочеться звикати до цієї.
Unfortunately, we don't want to get used to this crawling occupation, but still, it is happening, and we see that.
Впливу чи
I
мати
think as for the impact, whether it impacts Ukraine a lot,
завжди Російська
I
Федерація
think that Russian Federation at this or that level always wanted to achieve it, and always, well, we may say and be rather sincere, we are fighting this impact. And I think we've already have overcome it. So sincerely, since the beginning of the independence of our state, we've dreamt, we were the only ones to dream of independence. We were the only ones to think about it. We understood that it's important for us only and for the civilized world as well. Especially now we can see with the current support of the friendly countries. But we were not considered in Russian Federation and are still not considered both at the level of the authority and because of the policy, information policy, at the level of the bigger part, the big percentage of the society. They don't consider us to be the independent state. They don't consider us, they don't respect our culture, our values, the language, and so on. They don't consider that we have the right for independence and sovereignty. And that means that we don't have the right for life. We are fighting for life today, which means that we are fighting for independence, that we are fighting for our freedom. Let the fight, that's the freedom of Ukraine. TV channel Inter, the fifth row, microphone please. Mr. President, you insisted on the meeting with Putin. Are you still insisting on the personal meeting with him, or do you consider that it can stop the war? How can it stop the war? And why Russia denies to meet? What are your assumptions? And what about the security component in the context of the information that there were some of the attempted murders? As far as I understand, it could be the third country. It should be the territory, the neutral territory, right? The meeting should have been done at the neutral territory. Do you acknowledge the risks and the threats of yours for you? Thank you so much for this question, or for these questions. As for Russian Federation and the negotiations, I've insisted since the very beginning to have negotiations with the leader of the Russian Federation, because I consider that any formats of the meetings through the mediators with Russia, or just to giving this or that information to the leader of Russian Federation through the friendly countries, will not give the desired effect. I consider this war can be stopped by the one who began it. Do you hear us? This is the last train, the last one. Oh no, God forbid that it's the last one. Just for today, right? Let's listen to the underground. So, instantly, this is the answer about the attempted murders. I'm not that afraid of that. My gods are afraid of that. I am not the one who's afraid, and my family is afraid of the attempted murders, just to be really sincere. As for the topic of the meeting with the President of Russia, yes, I would like to stop, to finalize the war. There is the diplomatic way and there is the military way. So any healthy and sane person always chooses diplomatic way, because he or she knows that even if it's hard, it may stop the losses of thousands, of tens of thousands, and with such neighbors, hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of victims. Losses of people. We don't want that. And any leader, whether he wants that or not, he doesn't have the right to deny subjectively, because it would be a subjective decision to deny the diplomatic way. And it's also important for our partners, I may say, because we are constantly speaking about that and made certain steps for the diplomatic solution of the military conflict and the war with Russian Federation. Our partners, both European and the partners from beyond the ocean, the United States, Canada, everybody sees that what Russia says and was saying during all these times, that Ukraine itself doesn't want to sit at that negotiation table and end the war. Everybody could see that it was the kind of a piling up effect. And now, if we manage to do that, our trust, the trust for our partners to us is the highest level. But there is no trust to Russia. Those are not synonyms, those are antonyms, Russia and trust, because they're just saying something and their words do not coincide with actions. And what about the security issues? Yes, security issues. Just a second. So I don't remember the second part of your question. I'm not afraid of meeting with the president. If you're about the attempted murders, let's wait a bit.
Боятись я просто не маю права.
I don't have the right to be afraid.
Боятись я не маю права, тому
I
що
don't have the right to be afraid because our people showed that they are not afraid of anything. They are afraid for their children. That's true. People were stopping tanks with their bare hands and other Russian military armament, as well as our armed forces of Ukraine did, as well as our National Guard did.
заходів безпеки вам не
There are
здається?
lots of security measures here, doesn't it seem to you? Well, but you will still know that you are in safety now.
І тому нормальний лідер
That is why a sane and normal leader
не має права
doesn't have the right to be afraid when we are speaking about the state and about our independence. Thank you.
Дякую. CGT.
Thank you. CGTM, right? If I pronounce the fourth row, please.
Так, CGTN.
Yes, CGTN.
Пане президенте,
Mr. President,
підкреслювали вже
you
вашу
emphasized already your readiness of the peaceful negotiations with Russia.
генеральний секретар.
And the Secretary General of the UN is planning to visit Moscow and Kyiv. We've also heard that the United States and the allies are sending arms and weapons. How can this weapon come to Ukraine? And simultaneously, Moscow says that you go on asking for military help and support from the NATO member countries, that this help won't help the peaceful negotiations. Could you comment on that? Could you repeat the beginning of your question?
Від самого початку, якщо можна. Так.
From the very beginning, if you can. Yes, sure. You speaking about your readiness for the peaceful negotiations with Russia. We know that the UN Secretary General will come to Kyiv and Moscow and will be speaking about the peaceful negotiations. And they say that the United States and the alliance are providing weapons to your country. But Moscow is saying that your permanent requests of weapons only add fire to this situation. And this is only interfering the negotiations process. Well, thank you for the question. Of course, we will meet the Secretary General who will come to us. We'll communicate with him. It seems to me that we have done lots of steps for his position also to change, and his position to be strong enough as for the support of Ukraine. I had several personal meetings with him, and I am rather firm saying that you cannot balance between Ukraine and Russia. We are expecting for 100% support from the UN Secretary General. 100%, because 100% of truth is on our side and the war is taking place here. So I think that after the arrival, and if the Secretary General has time, I think that he has a very respectful status. He should definitely visit first the cities where there were tortures and where people were killed, and then he will find time for the esteemed and respectful colleagues from Russia. It's important for him to understand what's happening here, to have a very precise perspective, which the Secretary General can bring and deliver to Moscow, meeting with the president of the state. Because if we just come to Kyiv and communicate, it's not enough. So I consider that, first of all, you need to understand what is taking place here. That is why lots of leaders, both like Chancellor of Austria, I always offered, if they go to Russia, to Moscow, first you should understand what is happening here. If you're speaking really about the help and support, not about political tourism. So I think he will see it here, and his opinion about Ukraine will be even stronger. As for the weapon delivery to Ukraine, weapon supply, we are definitely not interested in the opinion of Russian Federation, though they, since the beginning of war, were delivering it as well. You do remember the full-scale invasion, how they were fleeing, leaving the tanks. We are grateful for those deliveries. Thank you.
Будь ласка, НВ.
Okay, NV, please. In the end. over there. Volodymyr Alexandrovich, in several days, on the 27th of April, the Russians are announcing that they plan to conduct a pseudo-referendum in Kherson. We know, according to the experience of 2014, how it took place in Donbass. It doesn't matter how many people will come. They will just invent any result which they need. What will Ukraine do if this pseudo-referendum takes place? If they announce a so-called Kherson's People's Republic, what will it mean for our negotiations? Because the people in Kherson are pro-Ukrainian, and they don't know what will happen after that. What will Ukraine do with that? Thank you for your question.
Якщо будуть знищені наші люди
If
в Маріуполі,
our people are killed in
якщо
Mariupol,
буде проголошено
if
референдум,
they announce referendum,
референдум
pseudo-referendum
республіках,
in the new pseudo-republics,
будь-яких
Ukraine
процесів.
will not take part in any negotiation processes.
Але люди наші,
But our
які
people
знаходяться на
who are now located in the temporarily occupied territories in Kherson, I emphasize again, not only in Kherson, in the region, and there are lots of settlements in Zaporizhia region as well, unfortunately, and in the east of our state, they need to know and they needn't to help the occupiers. I was speaking to our people about that. We know through our intelligence and through the people who are living there.
що вони мають проукраїнську
I
позицію.
cannot say that they have the pro-Ukrainian position. They have Ukrainian position. They are Ukrainians. They are speaking about those facts. They discuss, they go through the apartments and collect the data. So I think it won't be useful for the diplomatic settlement of this situation. Definitely it will interfere the end of war
Дипломатичним шляхом. Це
in the
точно
diplomatic way.
неправильний крок
Definitely this is the wrong step from
Це говорить
Russian.
про те, що
It
все, що було
witnesses
до цього,
that
всі
everything
ці
which used
зустрічі
to be before
дипломатичних
that,
груп,
all of the
все це
meetings of the
фікції.
diplomatic groups,
І
all of
такий
that was
політичний
just
театр
fiction
з, до
and a
речі, з
political
дуже
theater,
поганими
by the
акторами.
way, with really bad actors.
Так, будь ласка,
Please,
да?
Imedi, Georgia, right? The fourth row, please.
Thank you.
Дякую, пане президенте.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Громадянка Грузії.
As a citizen of Georgia, as a journalist, I would like to thank you because we, the Georgians, consider that your fight is our fight and your victory will be really important both for our country as well. I would like to ask you now,
Є і наші.
here are in Ukraine, there are our soldiers, Georgians, who are helping to fight for democracy.
Думаєте, наші
How
про
What do
наші
you think
перспективи в європейському
about our perspective in the European Union? How do you see friendly relations with Georgia? The Georgians are really worried because of some of the details. When will you be able to bring the ambassador of Ukraine to Georgia? Because you know that there are lots of Russian impact
Дякую за
onto
запитання.
Georgia. Yes, thank you for the question
Дружньої Грузії.
from the friendly Georgia.
Вважаю, що дійсно
I think that really one of the closest peoples to Ukraine, to Ukrainian people, are the Georgians. Beginning with, well, historically and since the first revolution, we have seen such a huge and significant support. Well, you know, and even now,
ми не
when
зрозуміли. Скажу вам
we
відверто.
did not understand, I will be frank.
Я можу бути відвертими
In fact, I can be sincere
з грузинами, тому що
with the Georgians because we are really brotherly nations. I do not understand the position of the leaders of your
я
state.
не розумію. І
I
тому
do not
я
understand it.
боляче.
And that is why it is so painful
Я
for
вважаю,
me
що це
to perceive
того не
it.
варто.
I think it's not worth
Що
it,
вони йдуть.
what
Не
they are
запроваджують
doing.
ці санкції, ці
If they don't introduce sanctions, those are just pennies, those are kopecks. In the story, in the history of two states, in the history of such neighborhood, in spite of the number of kilometers, we are neighbors. You are much closer than we are with Russia. You can see we are at war with Russia, and we definitely don't want any conflicts with Georgia, and I'm sure they will never take place. And Georgia now went out to the streets, to the rallies. The whole city of Tbilisi supported us. So I was urging, and our people were urging, and your people came to us, giving their lives, were fighting and supporting with the humanitarian aid and relief, the volunteers, and lots of other things during those years, beginning with the revolution, ending with the beginning of the war, even in 2014. But I cannot understand the behavior. I'm not a teacher, but your leaders are not pupils. Those are grown-ups. Those are not toys. I don't understand why, for the sake of what, not introducing the sanctions. I've heard the messages that we need to protect their economy. Which economy? They already took part of the territory of Georgia. They almost achieved Tbilisi. It reached Tbilisi. Which economy? I think it's not worth it. That's my opinion. And but still, I'm sure. Yes, sure. What exactly would you like to clarify?
Щодня ми дуже голосно про це говоримо. Так,
Every day we talk it very loudly in political arena, in the EU, in all groups. This is pronounced very loudly. My question is about the ambassador of Georgia, and what is your vision of our membership in the EU together? You have to see your prospects of EU membership in, and I know that you people want it, but this is life, and I'm sure that you will be in the EU or in the NATO, wherever you want to go. This is your choice, and Ukraine will always respect your choice. I am saying it with confidence, but it seems to me your answers to these questions are inside of your own state. As to the returning of the ambassador,
Ми обов'язково повернемо посла до дружньої.
we shall certainly return our ambassador to our friendly Georgia as soon as we hear the support which is provided to Ukraine on the part of your authorities. Thank you very much. CNN, please. The fifth row to the left.
дякую, пане президент.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am from CNN. Can you provide your assessment of the plans of Russia and their capabilities on their operation in East and on Donbass? Are the Russians able to take really breakthrough attack in order to ruin your defense line, or this operation will be long and exhausting? Do you believe that your allies and partners received your message and finally send the heavy weapons? Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to give you the example of Kiev and Kiev region, which was occupied, and the Russians have almost reached Kiev, and there were battles near Kiev, but we succeeded to de-occupy this territory. My position as a person, as a human, but first of all as a president, what they will be able to conquer or occupy, God forbid, we will return. And this will not be the issue of 10 or 20 years or the 8 years of the war since 14. But this is the issue of the weapon, whether we have the weapon. As if we have the weapons, we will immediately be returning the territory which is occupied. This is the sort of war which we have in Ukraine. This is the situation which we have in Kharkiv in the east. We unfortunately may retreat certain part of the territory due to the powerful some squads of Russia. But then in the morning we are returning them and advance. We are not advancing where we don't have support, which we keep talking about quite long. Not only we talk about it for a long time, but we talk about it publicly and much longer not publicly, if to be quite honest. But right now we see the change, real change in the attitude of our Western partners. Particularly, I see the change in the speed of response on the part of the US. And if this speed is increasing as we are promised to, and if the steps coincide, if the words coincide with the words, as is the case with any good leader and people, we will be able to quicker deoccupy our territories. In the east of our state, at any point of time, happened maybe the thing which we are talking about. In Mariupol is besieged, very difficult siege. Today is one of the most difficult days. They keep shelling from the sea, from the ground, everywhere, from the tanks, from the artillery, from the aircraft. And the most recent signal I received, it was 1 hour ago. So I received it from the Azov regiment who are fighting there. And as soon as we are able to reach them, we will be there. But as yet, we offer as civilized people, we suggest humanitarian solution to the situation. We offer exchange of civilians. We offer exchange of the wounded. We are not offering the exchange of those who are killed, who are died. But they have left their killed people. They don't need their own killed people. And as to the exchange of our military servicemen who are defending Mariupol, we are ready to do that. And in one of the press conferences, I have already answered, as if Russia said, the ball is on your side. That is not the truth. We suggested, we offered any format for the exchange of our people who are currently in this predicament, in this terrible situation, in this bloody encirclement. And when the president of the Russian Federation was talking, and he said, there is a citadel there, but we will not be advancing. And 2 hours later, after that, the airstrikes happened. Now, the issue is the pragmatic dialogue, not the trust. Thank you. The third row, RBK. Ivan Bilichev, RBK, Ukraine. I have 2 questions. One of them is very focused as to the requirements of the aggressor country as of now, at this point of our, when we are having our discussion. What sort of requirements do they have? Do they want us to recognize the fake states at Donbass? Or maybe they have stopped presenting certain requirements right now, or maybe they have refused to present the requirements such as denazification. So the question, what is the pool of requirements? And the second question, regardless how the events will develop within the nearest days or weeks or even days, are Ukrainian people ready to live in such a high alert state? For example, like the state of Israel is living, when it is always ready, where it is militarized, where people are learning in school how to put together and disassemble the machine guns. Are Ukrainians ready to live in such a situation as long as this threat from the northern east exists? I shall start from the second part of your question. This is not a question whether we are ready or not. I believe that all Ukrainians, especially all those who still remain in Ukraine. I'm not talking about women and children who left, and some men who happen to be not real men who left. Most of Ukrainians who are united, more than 90% of our people are united. I'm very happy that we have the sort of state like that. Those people, we are not talking about being ready or not being ready. This is the only way out, the only solution which we have. We will be. Actually, I want to tell you that we have become the kind of state. We are the state where we know that we shall have to defend our land. And that does not necessarily mean that we shall be waging the war. I believe that, on the contrary, when we win, we shall be the state with the most powerful army and the most experienced army, and the most experienced army from in terms of protecting the people and in terms of security guarantees. I believe that we shall become one of the strongest powerful state in Europe, not because we are special, even though I believe it. This is subjective view, but because this is the only solution to our situation. These are the reality in which we live, and this is the reality of our neighborhood. And as to the requests or requirements or demands on the part of the Russian Federation, as far as we know from the mass media and thanks to other institutions, we have received the ultimatum, because this is not about agreement and about negotiations, because it is written in their ultimatum, Ukraine must. That is already not the dialogue. So it was initially the ultimatum. And then the rhetoric of this ultimatum was changing exactly because of the united people of Ukraine, United States of Ukraine, which has successfully demonstrated it from the very first days of the war. And within several first days of the war, this ultimatum tone and points of ultimatum started to disappear from the rhetorics. And then there were the negotiations between our subgroups, and I believe everybody knows this, that the communique was prepared in Turkey, and as far as I know, for this communique, the Russian communique first responded positively, and then inside of their state, they have received a high level of criticism. It turned out that not only the state, but the people, it looks like the state has brainwashed the people so much that they have not expected to achieve such an outcome. The hate of the Russians to Ukraine, they have cherished with the help of the mass media, who are fully controlled by the policy of the Kremlin. And then they were surprised themselves with the level of hate which was expressed to Ukraine. And after that, they have presented different answers to our communique. Our groups are working, processing those replies. To give you a brief answer to your question, the most relevant question is the security guarantees, the fate of Donbass and Crimea, and of course peace. These are the only issues, the only real things. The rest just pretense. NBC News somewhere at the end. Mr. President, thank you very much that you have allowed me to answer a question. I am from the States, NBC News. You have mentioned your openness. Are you ready to meet with Mr. Putin? You actually expressed your readiness to meet with Mr. Putin. If you had a chance to talk to him right now, what would you say to him? And about the military aid from the United States, are you satisfied with the weapons which are receiving from the United States? Are you happy with that for this for the short-term perspective and for the long-term perspective? Can you? We are very grateful to the bipartisan support which we are receiving, which we are receiving from the United States. Of course, we want more than we are given. We cannot say no to the military aid and help which we are receiving from the very powerful states like the US and the United Kingdom. Yes, there are a lot of other the friends in Europe, but I'm talking about the volumes, the scope of military help and aid and assistance. In addition to that, the United States is the leader in the world who sets the tone and the pace of reaching the victory and providing the aid. And their decision actually affects whether the European countries are ready and willing to provide to us the help and assistance. That's why the US is the strategic partner, and that's why I believe in this strategic partnership. But we want everything to be quick. As to the policy, they support us. Now, for example, I don't think that this is a big secret. The people from the US are coming to us tomorrow. I shall have the meeting with the State Secretary, Mr. Blinken, and the Defense Secretary, who are coming to us, and we will be expecting, we will be waiting for the time when the security situation will allow the president of the US to come and to talk to us. Tomorrow we will be discussing the list of weapons which we need and about the pace of its delivery to Ukraine. And I want to emphasize once again, the last week I want to emphasize the signals, the messages, the steps, the terms and deadlines and the quality. Of course, I'm talking about the weapons, which is planned to be delivered by the United States. Everything has improved, and I'm very much grateful for that. And we are very, very much waiting for that. I want to say that in addition to our people, we would have yet another powerful weapon, which we will receive from the US. And now, next question, Azerbaijan. The report agency, what is your view on the mediatory mission of Turkey what is your view on the role of Azerbaijan in this situation? Before the war, your military servicemen valued very high the experience of the Azerbaijani warriors. Is it possible to use that experience which Azerbaijanis gained in this war with Russia? Okay. We love Azerbaijan very much. But wait. You have so many questions. Let me jot them down. Let's start from the very beginning. What is your view on the intimidation or mediatory role of Azerbaijan and Turkey in the negotiation and in this situation, in this war between Russia and Ukraine? Before the war, Ukrainian military servicemen valued the experience of Azerbaijani armed forces very, very highly. So do your military servicemen use this experience in this war? Okay, 3 questions. Let that be the fourth. And what is your view on the usage of Bayraktar? What is the role of Bayraktar in this war with Russia? Oh, you have quite interesting questions indeed.
Спасибо за вопрос.
Thank you very much for your questions.
Как я оцениваю миссию?
What is my view on the mission of Turkey and Azerbaijan from the point of view of negotiation process?
Скажу честно,
I shall tell you honestly, the dialogue with one and the second president, with the presidents of both countries, I was holding this dialogue in terms of their mediation in this process. I had several points with respect to this process. We have very good relations with both Turkey and Azerbaijan, but here I would like to talk individually. Because in Turkey, there are diplomatic meetings of our subgroup taking place. Turkey is actually showing that it wants to be a leader, the leader among the countries who want to perform the mediation role in this process. Turkey is openly stating that it wants to become the guarantors, wants to be among the guarantors of security. And I have not heard this from Azerbaijan yet, but I want to say that President Aliyev has always been supporting Ukraine and is supporting Ukraine's humanitarian supplies were sent to us, medical supplies were and from the point of view of armament, I forgot the Russian word, вооружение. I believe that it is very difficult from the point of view of weapons to provide support to Ukraine because Azerbaijan has Nagorno-Karabakh. This is historical issue. It's very difficult issue. I understand all this, and I believe that Azerbaijan is one of those very few countries whom we understand this sort of neutrality balance because right now they may have the war started there.
But nevertheless, we are expecting for more because it's very difficult for us to understand for too long. You know, every day our boys are dying. You must understand this. But we have good relations with Azerbaijan. The role of Bayraktar, these are drones. And you know that we have started joint production, and we already have drones produced jointly with the use of our engines. We use this equipment, and with all due respect to Bayraktar and to any hardware, I will tell you frankly, this is a different war. This is the answer to the question how the experience of other war influenced. This is a different war. Experts said that this war cannot be compared to any other war in the 21st century. It cannot even be compared to the wars of the 1990s. There was no such a war at all. These are dead weapons. Drones may help, but they will not make the difference because the history of missiles, history of artillery, and history of air defense, this is the major story. And I wouldn't recollect any such a level of destruction in any other wars which were waged by Russian Federation on the territory of other countries. And such atrocities like torture, like raping, there has never happened anything like that. And let God forbid from this happening again on the territory of other countries. And this is the situation now, that Ukraine can stop all this, but paying for this with the lives of Ukrainians. And your countries should help us, because you should remember that when they finish with us, they will start with you. You should know this. 1+1, the fifth row. I have to come back to a very serious question and a very painful wound. Mariupol, I think you all saw another video from a basement at Azovstal, where children for 55 days haven't seen the sun, the sky, where food is running out. Is there any way to deblocade Mariupol, whether it is physically possible? And is there any deadline, because the defenders are running out of weapons and people there are running out of medicines? and food. I'm not ready to tell you everything what I tell them as the president, Naev and Zelensky are talking to them. Many other our guys are in permanent contact with people over there. I must tell you that these are our people and our town, and therefore we have full moral right for military deblockading of our cities, and we have a lot of hope that we'll be able to do this. Whether we're ready now, no. Don't believe anyone about military deblockading. We are not ready today. And by the way, the guys who are now defending this part of Mariupol, Azovstal, those who are blocked there, the leaders, the commanders understand this very well. This is a reality.
Можемо далі. Так, будь ласка, Sky News.
Sky News, please.
Дебра Хейнс, Sky News. Ви сказали, що
Deborah Haynes, Sky News, you said that
щоб знайти дипломатичний
you are ready to talk to Putin to find diplomatic solution. But taking into account what your country has gone through, would you like Putin to be delivered to the tribunal? And in view of the fact that the Secretary of State and the Defense Secretary are going to come here, you said that U.S. and British weapons you would like to get to Ukraine quicker. Can you say what threat will be for Ukraine if the United States and Britain stop sending these weapons quickly to Ukraine? Will Russians be able to capture more territories in the south and east of Ukraine and then come back to Kyiv? Speaking about the meeting with the President of Russian Federation, I didn't say I want. I have to see the president if we plan to solve this issue through diplomacy. Whether I want the leader of Russia to be presented to the tribunal, to the court, it's not me. It's not only him. I think that all who issued orders, these shameful orders to eliminate peaceful citizens, women, children, and others to be judged by the international court. We know how long it may take. We know how long the international courts work. We will wait. If not we, then our children will live up to the day when the last the policy of the state will be completely ruined. In terms of our partners, I don't believe that I don't even think about the possibility that our partners do not provide us the weapons which they promised. They have no alternative. We will not give them this opportunity. We have no other chance to defend our land and to get it back. What would be the other chance? The other chance would be that we have no state, no people. This will be just a scorched land. This is the only alternative which I will never take into account. At the end, or to the left, please. At the very end.
Добрый день, господин президент. Благодарим за то, что вы нашли время для нас.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for finding time to talk to us. My friends from Poland asked me to send you their words of support, and we'll hope that everything will be good. A question from our Polish friends. We very often heard that Russians tried to persuade us that you left Kyiv, that you were in Warsaw. We were trying to find you in Warsaw and failed. and then we see that you're here. Would you like to come to us? The question is.
Вам по-русски, да? Смотрите, я уже 60 дней слышу.
I've been hearing this question for 60 days, whether I want to go somewhere. I have no rights. And frankly speaking, I don't want. With all due respect, and I have a great respect to Poland, to our friends, to the leaders of Poland, to Polish people. You received 2.5 million of our people. It's a huge assistance. And this is a special attitude of one nation to another one at difficult times to behave like this. It's you can only thank for this. Because Poles are very safe and very friendly neighbors for Ukraine. And I think this is for a very, very long time and will be very serious for a very long time. And in terms of visiting Poland, I visited Andrzej Duda a number of times. We've always met. I always was happy to see him, to visit him by his invitation. I often come there. Maybe I don't feel like at home, because at home I feel only in Ukraine, but still I have a very good feeling when I'm in Poland, something very close to my people, to my countrymen. So, and I'm once again, I'm extremely grateful to Poles for the support, and not only for humanitarian, you know, that since very beginning we've had excellent relations with the president of Poland, with Andrzej Duda, and Poland has always helped us with weapons. Well, I'm a person who I cannot always say thank you and thank you. Sometimes I have to say something. There is one unresolved issue with jets. With jets, we all must agree with this. But compared to what Poland has already done for us, it's nothing. And I think that I have no right to go to Poland or any other countries until the war has ended. Representative Republic India in the center to the left. Mr. President, about the new world order, don't you think that the world order has changed? And facing this new aggression, don't you think that it's necessary to create a new alliance of countries? And what are you expecting from Asian countries? During the first phase of this operation, did you feel that there was something which Asian countries didn't assist you with enough? Thank you for your question about the world security system. I cannot influence the alliance. We are not members of NATO, though I believe that this was a gross mistake, that NATO over these years didn't find time and place and opportunity to invite Ukraine to the alliance, to accept Ukraine as a member. And now we all see that that would be a high probability that the war would not be started by Russian Federation. This is my strong belief, and since the very beginning of my presidency, I talked about this to the Secretary General, to the leaders of European states, big European states. I'll just say the big, because I'm not going to name the countries. We only started speaking openly with you. But those who influenced the membership of this or that state, both in the NATO alliance and in the European Union. That's why I believe that this was a strategic mistake made by the alliance vis-à-vis Ukraine. Nobody expected that our state will be so strong. Nobody expected that we would stand for so many days. Some representatives of European and NATO states even openly said that there would be no sense to implement sanctions if in 3 days you would be occupied. So that was the big mistake in terms of attitude to Ukraine. But with our resolve, with our unity and our strength, we managed to change the attitude of the allies and the European member states. We managed to change their attitude to us. I want very much the Asian countries to change their attitude to Ukraine as well. Do I feel that they changed? No. Have they changed? Maybe. I think that peoples of these states, yes, maybe these peoples of these states know us. And I feel that the leaders of these countries are coming closer to us. If before, historically, they were so close to the Soviet Union, therefore, after the fall of the Soviet Union, they historically were close to Russian Federation as successor of the Soviet Union and the biggest country as part of former Soviet Union. That's why their relations remain strong with Russia. But Ukraine shaped somehow these relations, and now we see that these relations are more and more inclining towards us. This is a big issue, but this is a very difficult question. Historical African and Asian cultures historically have been close to Soviet culture and Russian Federation, but there is always an end to every story, and I think that in part this is the answer to your first question about the structure or system of security. At the moment, the states, non-European states, Asian and American, feel that any other country should not be allowed to break or to violate the world order, to take the territory of other countries, even on other different continents. Everybody is afraid of this. You see, this is the challenge. You see, what challenge is it to Arabic country, to African countries? For example, very simple example, supply of our grain, wheat, oats, maize, where we are one of the leading producers. 110 million tons. 20 million tons would be enough to fill the Ukrainian market, and 90 million tons these countries will not receive from us. And there will be deficit in some countries, there will be famine. And this is what the Russian Federation did. This is what they did. That's why people should understand that the war in Ukraine is not just a war in Ukraine, but even through blocking of supply of food, we see that this is not a war in Europe. This is a war on other continents because of these steps, because of this lack of respect to living beings, to all living beings, to the world order. For the leaders of the societies who start understanding, and I hope that Prime Minister Modi, whom I met, and I had a number of meetings with him. We talked to him a number of times in Glasgow at Environmental Forum. Then we had a telephone conversation after that. And yes, I feel really that people and leaders, and I believe he is a real leader, the biggest democracy in the world, as they say. I feel that they see that every such step should be defended. The democracy should be defended. Anadolu at the end to the right. Thank you, Mr. President. What do you think, Mr. President? Would it be possible that there will be another meeting in Turkey and continuing negotiations?
Ви з Туреччини?
You are from Turkey. speak Russian. Is there any possibility to continue negotiations in Turkey?
Вопрос к другому Владимиру.
Probably it's a question to another Vladimir, Vladimir Vladimirovich. It depends on the wish of that Vladimir Vladimirovich.
Встреча наших групп, потому что просто так.
The meeting of our groups depends on that. We love Turkey, but now the war is here, and there is no time for us for recreation and to go to resorts. We are not in that mood. You see that, right? Even before the Orthodox Easter, because it's a big celebration. It's a big festivities in Ukraine. 7 missiles hit Ukraine. 7 missiles hit Odessa today, right at the Easter, almost at the Easter. 2 of them were intercepted. There's a question on what it depends on the air defenses. On 7 missiles, they hit the multi-story residential house. Apartment building.
8 people have died by this very point of time. 18 or 20 wounded. 3-month-old baby died. They killed 3-month-old baby.
Война началась, когда этому ребенку
The
месяц.
war started when this baby was 1 month old. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what is happening? They are just bastards. Just bastards. I don't have any other words to use in this context. Just bastards.
Поэтому предметные встречи нужны. Потому что удовольствие.
That's why just I don't have the pleasure to enjoy the sunshine together with these bastards. But we must talk until the war ends, and we must use any opportunity, any chance in order to avoid such a tragic event as we had today when the 3-month-old baby was killed. Actually, they don't care about anything. What sort of God they believe in, what sort of values they have, what is the Christian world, what is the Russian world. It's just Middle Ages. I don't have any words to say. 7 missiles hit Odessa. They used to say, Odessa, mommy, you cook so well. They just come there to enjoy the gluttony process. Infobae, Argentina, the central aisle, 5th or the 6th row. Good evening, Mr. President. This is Roman the Argentina channel. Did you have a chance to talk about the Pope of Rome, Mr. Francisco, and what do you think about his role in this general process? You see, in Vatican, when Pope Francis is praying, when he is participating in different events, in the events of celebrations and in different events, he's supporting Ukraine, he condemns Russian aggression, and I am grateful to him for his this position. And I have met him, and we had a chance to talk personally. At that meeting, I had a chance to tell him the story about one military serviceman, Mr. Markiev. He helped us to bring him back from the imprisonment. I believe that we must fight for every person's life, and I want very much for him to come to us, and I want him to support our people in the east of our country. I wanted him to try to unblock the humanitarian corridors to Mariupol. That was exactly the request which we have made to him. There are some signals, but we are waiting. We are waiting for him because his mission, he has the mission assigned to him from the Lord. A lot of people are trusting him. I believe it is very important. Apology for using this word in relation to Vatican. Ukraine does not have any way out but to use every possible opportunity. That's why apologies for using this word to use in relation to Vatican, to use any opinion leader who is affecting this process of stopping the war, who may affect this stopping the war. The regime of truth, to introduce this regime of truth in order to exchange people, at least in the southern part of Ukraine. And we are asking for help in this context. Everybody, Vatican is not exception. TV channel Rada, to the right. To the right. Good afternoon, Volodymyr Alexandrovich. We attentively follow what the government is doing, and you stated that you have approved the Special Council on Restoration of Ukraine. What are the functions assigned to this council, and what are the powers? And is there a list of people who will be members of this Council of Restoration of Ukraine? Will this be the representative of the government or the representatives of the presidential administration? This Council for Restoration of Ukraine has just been created, and there is already the list of government officials and the presidential office officials who will be members of this council, and this list must be also added because this is the program of restoration of Ukraine, which was initiated by us. I described this program in detail to the EU. Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel truly support this program. Now, in addition to that, we have started bilateral discussions about restoration of Ukraine with the leaders of other countries, UK, Sweden, Spain, and several other countries. For example, the UK has already confirmed its support of this program. Sweden has also done the same, and we are talking about the individual leadership of certain countries for certain regions of our country, because Ukraine does not have enough of resources to restore all towns and cities in Ukraine. But here the issue is not only the issue is not only the finances. The issue is also in patronage, which actually implies not only the finances but also the experts, the professionals. We are interested very much in financial experts, architects, and other professionals, and we are very much interested in a lot of professions and a lot of experts who will arrive to restore certain region of Ukraine. For example, for the UK, together with the Prime Minister Johnson, we agreed that UK will be responsible for Kiev region. With Sweden, we have agreed that they will take care of Mykolaiv and Mykolaiv region. And as my colleague have told me, and the EU colleagues have said, this is a very smart idea. Why? Because not we decided, but probably more correct to say, Ukrainian people have decided to aspire to join the EU, and I believe we shall be able to pass this way quicker if the EU countries will be implementing such a big project for restoration of Ukraine, and this will unite together even the EU countries, because they will feel that they have made the contribution into the restoration of Ukraine, into the victory of Ukraine, and the big contribution into the freedom of European continent. Right now it looks like that. The details, what money, what plans, every region will be presenting its own plans for restoration of the oblast city or region as a whole. I believe this project of restoration of Ukraine has a big future, and I believe all of us will be participating in this project. But we will be participating not in the subotniks. We need to find a correct word because subotnik was the concept where people were working, which meant that people were doing a lot of work in after the working hours. We have to find a good word for that. And now, Antenna TV.
Дуже дякую, пане президент.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I represent Greek edition Antenna TV.
Якщо я правильно
If I have pronounced it correctly, Russian military commanders claim that they want to control the entire territory of Ukraine. They want to actually have the corridor to control the stretch of territories up to Moldova. And the question about Luhansk and Donetsk, a lot of people were illegally deported from Ukrainian Luhansk and Donetsk. Do you have the numbers? How many children were deported illegally from Luhansk and Donetsk? The numbers are very tragic. I want to apologize for incorrect numbers because people who were killed, who were tortured in the basements, who were buried, we cannot have any correct, precise numbers. The numbers what we have is that about 500,000 people were deported from different occupied parts of Ukraine into the territory of the Russian Federation or into the territory of the occupied East. We believe that the number is 500,000. And now about children, we don't have the number. I remember only one thing. Ira, about 5,000. That was about 5,000. 5,000 was the number which we had a week ago. What is the current number? I don't know. I'm not certain that this number is correct. The tragic of my uncertainty about the number is that this number is this 5,000 or even more. And the first part of your question, it has the corridor. Every day there are some signals coming from Russian military leadership. They talk about the conquering or desired conquering of certain territories. We have heard about it many times. The risks which they mentioned, they exist from the point of view of their desire, but from the point of view of the result or the outcome, we for sure will defend our territory. La Cite, Italy, the first or the second row. La Cite.
Дякую, пане президент.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Claudio Lucatelli, Italy. In 2 days in Italy, we shall have a National Day of Resistance, and we shall be paying tribute to our partisans who were fighting against the Nazis. Some people believe that it should not be compared to the current situation, but some people compare their resistance with current resistance of Ukraine. And some people believe that you have to surrender in order to defend some of your people. What is your view of such proposals?
Українці не здаються.
Thank you very much. Ukrainians don't surrender. We shall certainly not surrender. And I believe that we have proven it not with the words, but we have proved it with each day, with each step which we are living through in this battle against the Russian Federation. This, what they are doing to us is the Nazism. They were killing, they were torturing. What they have done to children, to small children, violence and against babies and small kids, and raping the babies and small kids. This is not merely the manifestation, it is the Nazism. And and historically, the historic books will include the word which is already very popular in Ukraine and in the world. That what they are doing is racism. The word is new, but the acts and deeds are the very same which Europe have witnessed 80 years ago. If you analyze the situation in our continents, you realize that this sort of racism will be included into Wikipedia, into the historical books. Small kids throughout the world will be answering to their teachers what is racism, where it was started, and who prevailed in this fight for the freedom against this terrible concept of racism. Al Jazeera, please, the central aisle.
Пане президенте, отже,
Dear President, I represent Al Jazeera. Russia is saying that it has certain territorial ambitions. They want to go to Transnistria. You are very happy to be receiving the weapons, but if this is a very big operational area, are you sure that you will be able, that you can tackle that and avoid this situation as Mariupol is facing at the moment? Will you be able to defend Odessa because you love it so much? And here we are talking about the food security in the world. And now the war crimes. You provide a lot of powerful messages. What tribunal would you like to judge the war crimes, the special tribunal or the Hague? So I don't care how this tribunal will be called. I'm interested in the result, and all the citizens of Ukraine are interested in the result. Will it be Hague? Will it be somewhere in Ukraine? Will it be some other processes? Frankly speaking, it's not the name which bothers me. The real matter is what number of people will be given what years imprisonment. So the real issue is how many people will be imprisoned and for how many years. I want to tell you for the second question, our General Prosecutor's Office is working together with our European partners. We have already joined investigation group. We believe that it will be international tribunal, and the process is going on already. There is a lot of work going on, and I see a lot of support provided to us already. And the Chief Justice of the International War Criminal Court was coming to us. French experts were coming to us, and I had a meeting with the Prime Minister of Spain. Their experts will be joining this process. A lot of European countries will be joining this process because everybody wants to punish the guilty. Everybody understands who is to blame and who is guilty. And as to the Transnistria area and Moldova, and will another Mariupol tragedy may occur? Yes, it may occur. Thousands of tanks, thousands of armored vehicles, The Russian Federation is mounting a lot of armament. They want to have the corridor, and they want to have the corridor in order to have the drinking water in Crimea. They have already occupied this territory. They actually have the corridor, but the corridor is not enough. Several more steps have to be made in order to achieve what they wanted to achieve. There are all these risks present, for sure. I don't believe that our enemy will stop. If they will not stop, then there will not be negotiation. If we are able to strengthen our position at the front line, then our position in the negotiations will be strengthened. My position in the negotiations will be strengthened. I believe that we have proven it, that it's impossible to win our country with this sort of strength and with these sort of methods. What they will be doing after that, what they have done in Kiev region, people are hating them all the time already. The fascists, the Nazis, they occupied the entire Europe, and what they have done, what they have succeeded to achieve, even at that moment when they were enjoying champagne in the French restaurants, what they have achieved. People started loving them. No. They have become richer. No. Even though they have stolen everything from Europe, all the artifacts, all the items of arts they were stealing. What they have achieved? They have achieved one thing. All these generations in Germany, young people who have nothing to do with their crimes, they always feel that they have historical guilt.
And now they feel that all historically are guilty. That's why I don't understand why, what for yet another corridor, yet another country. They took Abkhazia, they took Donbass. Is it there Hong Kong? Is it there Dubai? What is there? What civilization is there? Who is happy over there? Tell me, please. Так-Bladet, Swedish newspaper. Так-Bladet.
Дякую, пане президенте. Ви згадали про відбудову.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned rebuilding of the country. In your address to the parliament, you asked Sweden to join this process. Why Sweden? And in view of the Swedish status of non-NATO ally, were there requests for assistance from Sweden, and you compared the colors of our flags, which they are the same. What are the relations between Ukraine and Sweden now? I think our relations are very good. I'm grateful to Sweden, and we get real assistance from this country. And it not only in humanitarian sense, but in other senses. I'm not going to discuss all the details. Why Sweden? We asked all the countries. You asked why Sweden? Why? You don't want to help? With Sweden, we have very good relations, and all countries which we will ask. It's not about asking for assistance from your country to ours. This is about our joint future. As I said, this is a part of our program for our membership in the EU. It's a part of our future in the common history after the victory in this war. That's why we ask those countries which we respect. That's why we asked Sweden separately. I'm not going to talk about the details in terms of weapons and so on, but I just want to say that we are expecting assistance, and we will get it, and we're very grateful. I know what I'm telling you. CBS to the right near the column on the center.
Дякую, пане президенте.
Thank you, Mr. President. CBS News, you said that Russian people have to learn their history for them to know how many suffering they inflicted on their neighbors. How can they do this until the president is Putin? And the second question, what's your position in this situation personally?
Як людям,
How
будь-яка людина, яка хоче
any person who wants to know the truth can find it. A person who wants to understand what's going around should not hide away and can always find the answers. We understand this always when we read, when we study, when we look for something, when we are not sitting on our hands and just watching, staring at the Russian propaganda television, and then we go outside, we close our eyes. Then with these closed eyes, they walk on the territory of Russia or that city or the town and open eyes and ears only when they show by television what we want to see and hear. This doesn't work. This cannot be so. This information bubble, it's impossible to break it. From our side, we cannot. We should go one towards another. And there are such people in Russia, and there must be more and more such people. And if they want to learn, they want to know the truth, they must accept this truth. They know that they live on the streets of their cities and thus nobody is killed. You should realize this. They should accept that they are guilty. This is the authorities are guilty, but they elected these authorities. They cannot say, I have nothing to do with this. You cannot say that they should be able to say that they feel themselves citizens of Russia, and they share this responsibility. And it's very important to realize, to accept that this is the strength of a person, irrespective of what they throw at you, words or stones. You should not be afraid of this. I think it's an important step, and it is called a wish by people, a wish. That's why answering your question, when their people want to know the truth simply, that is, get out of this computer game, because living in Russian Federation is just a virtual reality. It's like in a computer game. Just get out of it. Take off these 3D goggles of 3 colors. Come back to the reality, to the civilized world, which is beautiful. This world is beautiful. It is much broader and more beautiful because it's truthful and honest. It's not necessary to be the leader in the nuclear weapons. You must be the leader in the country where there is the biggest number of IT specialists. You may send the missile instead of paying salaries to teachers. You know, you should think there is where to spend this money in potential. The people there are gifted. We know history very well. They're scientists, historically, mathematicians, etc. So there is brains people on which the normal sense. Because they are spending people. They're spending people literally, throwing them away like expendable material.
Давайте когось із українців. Телеграф, от бачу, так, по центру
Continue.
зали.
Somebody from Ukrainian media. Mr. President, Telegraph publication. Russian oligarch Abramovich twice visited Kyiv as a minimum in mass media, and he met with our leaders. Did he meet you personally, and what would be your assessment of his role in negotiations? As far as I know, and I know quite a lot,
Наскільки мені відомо, він був в Києві. Формат його зустрічі
was in Kyiv.
Дякую.
Дякую, будь ласка.
I'm not ready to discuss this. Thank you. Jewish Chronicle, the third row.
Вітаю.
Hello. We saw that Ukraine heroically fighting against Russian fascism.
Меседж російської опозиції, утім,
But
які виходять на демонстрації.
What you to rally who were beaten by Russian police, who are standing on the Red Square. What would be your message to those people in Russia who are trying to oppose Putin? Thank you very much. For us, it is very important the signal to all people who oppose Russia on the territory of all countries. And Russia is not an exception. For them, it's much more difficult to get on the square, because in Russia, unlike in other European countries, unlike Russia, there is no problem if you go to in the street, on the square, you do not violate the law, you're not beaten, and so on. But in Russia, it's much more difficult. In Russian Federation, there are not many people who would go on the streets, on the squares. Unfortunately, not many. But they, with their example, they add energy, and we will break this information wall, which we have talked about already a number of times. So I can thank them. I want to say that we see all their steps, all their words are important, and if something can break that wall, these are the words. The words hit much more painfully. That's why these people who do this, they are stronger than bullets. They are stronger than arms. If they were weaker than arms, they would not be detained. They are afraid of them. Imagine the nuclear power is afraid of lonely people who go in the streets. So we support these people, and we are very grateful to them. I can wish them in that situation only health, only good health, because I understand what they can do with these people behind their grill. And these people make their contribution into salvation of Russian Federation. I know that there are many Japanese journalists here. I would like to hear their questions. Are there journalists from Japan here? No? Japanese? Nikkei Asia, I see. Yeah, please, your question on the right.
Моє питання
My question is about the risk of use of nuclear weapons by Putin. They say that we should prepare to the worst scenario. What do you think, under what circumstances he may think about using the nuclear weapon? when would he be tempted for this? Maybe some other countries, because of this war, would attempt to obtain their own nuclear weapons. What do you think? What would happen if there were no Budapest Memorandum and Ukraine would have nuclear weapons? Would it be possible that war that we have now? Let's start in details answering your question. First, I don't think that adequate or normal person in the world can use or may use a nuclear weapon. It can be used by a person not when the person is in the dead end, but when the person lost connection with reality, with good sense. Otherwise, the nuclear weapon cannot be used. I don't think it's accidental. That's why if the Russian leaders do not lose completely connection with reality, they will not use nuclear weapons. And I'm answering your question about whether it may happen. Yes, it may, from the Russian Federation. Whether I believe into this, frankly speaking, I don't want to believe in such things. And you see my reaction to your second part of your question. I think you understand that if we would have nuclear weapons, Ukraine would have never used it. It's just impossible because we are absolutely adequate people. Any leader of our state who would even think on touching that red button would be immediately overthrown by our society, and I would be among those people who would be running to kick him out. The only thing which is unfair is that those people who deep in their souls are able to take these inhuman steps, they think that the others can do this as well. Therefore, if we had nuclear weapons, I think that the risks of waging war by Russia would be minimized, drawn to a minimum. This is my belief. NBC, please, in the center of the room near the passage.
Пане президенте,
Mr. President Aaron Betlow, about tomorrow's visit by the Defense Secretary and State Secretary. Why is it important that the leaders of the United States visit Ukraine? And what could you say in view of the journey of the Defense Secretary to Germany after meeting to discuss defense assistance? What would you tell him? I didn't hear the second part of your question.
я не почув другу частину.
I haven't heard the second part of your question. Could you repeat the second part, please? The
США
Defense Secretary of the United States, after visiting Kiev, will visit Germany to talk, to discuss the medium-term and long-term needs of Ukraine in security. What would be the result of this meeting? What do you think? Why is it important for leaders to come to us? I will give you a pragmatic answer. Because they should not come here with empty hands now. We're waiting not for just presents or cakes. We're expecting specific things and specific weapons. That's why I believe that we'll be able to get agreements with the United States or some part of that package of armaments which we agreed before. That's why I believe this is a positive signal. Therefore, that's the same about the leaders of other countries. They know that we discuss these things in quietness, as our diplomats say. There is quiet diplomacy. I don't like it very much, but it exists. Therefore, we appeal to all leaders.
Не країна для трагічних селфі.
That we are not a country to make tragic selfie. There is a real war here. Therefore, come to us. We'll be happy to see you, but please bring to us the assistance which we discussed, which you have or which you have an opportunity to bring. We never ask anything from the state if we know that the state doesn't have it. Never. We never put people into such an unpleasant, uncomfortable situation. We understand this very well. That's why the visit from the US is very important. Therefore, also we have strategic questions about security guarantees, which we have to discuss already in specifically because the United States is going to be one of the leaders of security guarantees for our country. Whatever is the end of all this, the guarantees of security for our state are necessary, and we will insist on this, and I'm sure that we will get the expected result on this, why the result which we have been expecting for a very long time. Therefore, we welcome this respectful guest. And about the visit of the Defense Secretary to Germany, we also expect for assistance from the United States in our dialogue with Germany, for them to supply us what they have and which they don't use, because the war is here in our country. And every time when we talk to Germany, we say the war is here, and you have something which we really need, and you don't use it.
Thank you, Unian, and then BBC.
Добрий день. Все ж таки, що б ви сказали?
Good afternoon. What would you say Putin at the very beginning of the meeting with him? And what is your assessment of Ukrainian ambassadors? Who is performing well? Who is not working well? And are we to expect the new wave of staff rotation in different embassies of Ukraine to different countries? The first part, what would I say to Putin? I think that the questions which I would be discussing with the President of the Russian Federation will solely be related would be the questions in which I am interested as the President of Ukraine. This is the territory integrity of Ukraine, and this is what shall we be discussing with him. How our Ukrainian Donbass will be living, how our Crimea will be living, in what point of the world we can agree on that. But the most important thing is that we are raising these issues, and we all hear that the Russian Federation starts to answer this question, not in the way we would like it to answer, but nevertheless, the dialogue has been launched. So without additional abundant sentiments, the dialogue will be very topical. I am not sure that it will be an emotional dialogue, even though, you see me, anything may happen in this life. This is what we would be talking about with Putin, about the ambassadors, who is underperforming. Are you talking our ambassadors, Ukrainian ambassadors abroad, or what are you talking about?
Послами займаємось.
So actually we are working on the ambassadors. Now the ambassadors have a very clear task which they face. And today it's very easy to actually to measure the efficiency of their work. Their task number one is to ensure the delivery of weapons, and we shall perform the evaluation of their performance after the war is ended. But there are some ambassadors who will not be able to show the result. The war does not give the second chance. This is how we assess the work of and performance of the ambassadors. BBC.
Отже, враховуючи те, що в нас є Антоніо
Taking
Гутєреш,
into account that we have Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, who will arrive in Russia and then to Ukraine. From the realistic point of view, what would you like to see or hear as a result of his meeting with Putin? What is the role of Russia in the Security Council? As far as I understand, it is Russia is actually bringing to zero the efforts of the United Nations. You have heard the public messages. I believe that Russia cannot be the member of the Security Council of the United States Nations until the war is going on. I believe it is a mistake to first go to Russia and then to go to Ukraine. This is not correct. What he will bring to us, the signals from Russia. So the logic is that to bring us the signals from Russia. This sequence means probably giving certain attitude, who is aggressor, who is not the aggressor. This is what they want to underscore. This is not the issue to go to us and then to Russia. There is no fairness in this sequence and logic. There must be logic added to this sequence, and the logic is very simple. If you want to finish the war, you must first know what exactly is happening, to arrive and to see what is happening. What will he see there? There will be no corpses, no dead bodies on Kutuzov's Avenue. No. So it seems to me that status of official, I have no leverage to affect these sort of people, unfortunately. But it seems to me logically it would be necessary to first go to Ukraine to see people, to see the consequences of this war, of this occupation, and then based on this experience go to Russian Federation, and there, based on this experience, have the opinion, present their opinion and talk with Russia. That's it. And then it will be possible to raise the issue. The Secretary General may raise the issues at the very highest level, at the top level, and then to raise the issue at the top level and find the solution. But how is it possible not to talk to us and then suggest something? I believe this is deprived of logic, but we don't know. People have accumulated a lot of experience. Maybe they are right. We have been talking for almost 2 hours. We have to observe the curfew. And to the left set Hungary, and then answer, and then we shall see what is happening.
Отже, зараз
Right. This is actually a person from Poland. Unfortunately, some people at a lot of Ukrainians are in the occupied territories. A lot of Ukrainians fled their homes and went to Poland. Ukrainians are waiting for the end of the war. What can you tell them, the Ukrainians, and what can you maybe promise them? I have prepared, this is Easter holiday, I have prepared a special address to the people of Ukraine, and I really respect very much and love very much the people of our country of Ukraine. And you cannot understand, you cannot even fathom the degree to which I love and respect Ukrainians. That's why I, as any person, I want peace. And I want to wish all Ukrainians a lot of health. I want to wish them just ordinary things, regular things, family happenings. I have never thought that I will be talking like that because in the past we normally said to wish health to our grannies and granddaddies because they are so elderly. I have never imagined that it's possible to wish long life and health to children. Because of this war, I want to wish all our people to take care, to protect their children as much as is possible. As the present, fortunately or unfortunately, I share the pain of everybody who have lost their kids.
Давайте Анса в самому кінці.
And answer at the very end in the center.
Доброго вечора.
Good evening, Mr. President. Answer. Italian Prime Minister Mr. Draghi is planning to visit Kyiv, Ukraine pretty soon. What are you expecting from this visit of Mr. Draghi and Italian government? Thank you very much. Recently, Italy has joined the anti-war coalition, and I feel powerful support on the part of Prime Minister Draghi. I am grateful to him. The relationship has changed between Ukraine and Italy at this very difficult point of time. They used to be just splendid, and now they are really topical and relevant. Italy is supporting us politically and with the weapon. Italy is not afraid to talk about its report. I'm grateful to Italy people and the Prime Minister. We shall be waiting Prime Minister Draghi in Ukraine. Ukrainian society is supporting him. I believe that it is very important for him. This is not the first Prime Minister of Italy with whom I am meeting. I believe this historical breakthrough between our country is taking place because Italy, not only at the level of people, is supporting Ukraine, but Italy at the level of its government in this conflict, in this war between Russia and Ukraine, it chose to support Ukraine. I'm grateful for this clear and very truthful posture. And now the last question. TRK Ukraine. TV radio company Ukraine. This will be the last question. Thank you, colleagues. Dear President, tomorrow there will be 2 months since the full-scale invasion. On the 24th of February, we have woken up to the sound of explosions. People were sleeping and living in the metro. Today we are having the press conference in the metro. What can we do? What can we receive from our international partners for us to be able to organize the press conference in Mariupol, in the east of Ukraine, in Kherson, in our Ukrainian Kherson? I shall tell you honestly, I believe that Ukraine has done everything. Truly, I believe that. We are so united. The most important thing, this feeling of being united would remain until the end of the war, and most importantly after the war. We are so united that now the word government and the state authorities does not make the society to feel indignant. I am proud of that fact, and I'm not ashamed to be the leader of the state. And I truly believe this is a big victory on our part and big weapon on our part. This unity between different part of the armed forces, the state board service, and our missile defenders who have received the first missiles and died. I keep talking about all our defenders. We have different defenders, local authorities. This is very important thing. When we had local elections, people were not voting in the local elections, were not supporting them. But now there is this unity, and this unity is weapon number one. That's why I believe that Ukraine has done everything due to different reasons, variety of reasons, and there are different various heroes of this unity who contributed to this unity. There are the whole plethora of these heroes. And the second weapon is the media weapon. Unity of media information resource. This is a powerful weapon. And I believe that right now this is the second branch of power. And this unity, the powerful media campaign, this is important. And actually, the media campaign has contributed to the unity inside of our country and outside of Ukraine. Our Ukrainian journalists and the journalists of the Western countries, a lot of other countries, we have our army, but journalists is also the army. We have the army, but to defend our country against the Russian journalism and Russian propaganda, it's impossible without the unity with you, dear journalists who are present here, with you journalists from other countries who have been listening to this truth and disseminate this truth. You are the apostles of this truth, because this is the eve of Easter. We don't ask you to tell that you love Ukraine. We just ask you to tell your countries, your people, that Ukraine is waging the war and that Russia came here to invade Ukraine. You see it with your own eyes. We just request you to talk what you are able to bring thanks to the high professional level of the journalism. On our part, we were doing everything depending on us to ensure the political unity of the EU countries. We were talking to the parliaments. We were even sometimes waging the wars with them, meaning figuratively waging the war. And sometimes, please forgive us, some European countries. We were very defiant, but understand us. This is the only way we could act, because we are short for time, we are short for days, because every day these 3-month-old babies are dying. That's why I will sometimes act defiant, because in this way we will be able to ensure the results quicker. This is the third unity, the unity between the countries of the EU, between the EU members. They have never been so united. Everybody was telling me this. Our last meeting, remember when we were meeting the Prime Minister of Spain and the Prime Minister of Denmark. When we had meeting with them, they told us we have never felt this unity before. We should not lose this unity. And they were thanking me, but this thanks, this gratitude should be addressed to all our people. They were thanking us for the EU being so united, because the EU has never been so much united for the sake of the real values. They have kept talking about these values, but now we really living it, understand. They told me that we understand what you are fighting for. This is the third unity, political unity, very powerful unity, which brings to victory, which leads to victory. I don't want to say that somebody was. Now I don't want. One of the prime ministers said that thanks to Ukraine, I understood what is the whole NATO about, what is the purpose of NATO, and what are the tasks of the NATO alliance. And I understood whether NATO is able to quickly unite itself and to withstand any aggression. That's why in this context, I want to say that Ukraine has done a lot in order to unite the world. And now when we have this unity, the only thing which we need is weapons. That is the case. Unfortunately, even during these hours, during this pre-Easter celebration, and we, in spite what the Russian Federation is saying, we know what is Kievan Rus. We know the origin sources of the real thing. We are not fighting to be called the first. We are fighting for the existence of this history and fighting for the existence and fighting for peace, because we must fight for peace with very powerful weapon. And this is the last and concluding unity which we need. Here, all countries already have united their efforts. All countries need to become brave, need to become brave people, brave humans, and brave leaders, not for the sake of Ukraine, not only for the sake of Ukraine, for the sake of themselves, because your societies, your people, your nations are expecting this sort of leaders. And then after us, we are not saying goodbye. I mean, after this war, you will see that your societies will also be changed. All of you will be brave and courageous and will be defending your states so powerful as powerfully you are supporting us. Dear journalists, I was not able to answer all of your questions, but you have given a good proposal. You suggested to meet when Mariupol is liberated. That means I believe that we shall continue pretty soon.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Please, those who didn't manage to ask your questions, I apologize. We tried to give you as much time as possible for this.
Бути героєм – це
To be a hero is to raise your flag in the town occupied by the enemy. Ukrainians are a nation of heroes.